Do. Our next speaker, Professor Ben Hescott, is a senior lecturer and research assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science here at Tufts University. And we're really honored to have him here. We're really proud because he, apart from better than perhaps anybody else, has tried, above all else, to make his discipline accessible to everybody, and that really means a lot to us. But Professor Hescott has also been he's been honored with all kinds of awards in faculty, in advising and teaching, including the IEEE, Computer Society, Computer Science and Engineering Undergraduate Teaching Award, which basically means that he's the best computer scientist, best computer science teacher in the world. So please take it away.
Thank you very much. So what I've decided to do in that same vein, which is I like to talk about computer science and I like to teach computer science, so I like to get everyone on the planet to do computer science. I've actually decided to try to do one of the hardest topics in all of computer science, which is something called computational complexity. And so most computer science majors wait till they're a senior to sort of take this class. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to try to do it in 8 minutes and tell you why everybody should actually be thinking about computational complexity. And the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to talk about 4 different problems. I'm actually just going to introduce 4 problems. And we're going to look at these 4 problems in the most abstract way. The most abstract way possible. So I'm going to have a very simple way to think about these problems. And I'm going to also make a claim that, in fact, we care very much, you individually will care about each and every one of these particular problems. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's start with the first problem. So we have a big, so again, I said I need it to be abstract. So let's look at our playing field. Our playing field is going to be a bunch of dots and a bunch of lines between the dots, right? And I want to ask the particular question, very simple question that says, how do I get from the blue dot to the purple dot? So all I want to do is I want to travel from the blue dot to the purple dot. And the rule of the game, so again, the idea is it's computational complexity, right? So I must, in some sense, have to have an expense. There must be something that makes it complex. There must be a resource that I'm spending. And the constraint that I'm going to do here is I want to ask the question. I want to minimize the number of times I make it through another orange dot. So every time you move, I want you to go find a path, find a way to get from blue to purple, and I want to do it so that I touch as few, I want the least number of orange dots touched. Good? Is that clear? It's called the shortest path. I'm looking for the shortest path from blue to purple. So you might say, why do I care about this? Well, why do you think you care about it? Your GPS does it every single day. If you're like my GPS, actually it doesn't do it quite that well, but it's not its fault. So we can actually find solutions to this. We do it every day in your GPS. Good? It's actually what we would consider in computer science to be quite a simple problem. The resources expended to solve this don't take much time. I could go through, what I do is I try to go 1 step away each point, then I try 2 steps away, 3 steps away, and eventually I'll grow and I'll find sort of the shortest path. It's quite simple. Let's look at another problem. Now, on the left, I have a picture, again, something in computer science that we call a graph. So a bunch of little circles and lines again. And the goal that I have for you this time is I'm going to give you a box of crayons. So I want you to go ahead all and take your imaginary, if you were in my classroom, I actually would have given you crayons right now, but I figured there might be too many of you, so I didn't have enough crayons. But we'd go through right now, and I want you to color. I want you to color the picture on the right, except here's the constraint this time. Let's focus in on the yellow dot here. On the yellow dot, the yellow is connected to red, it's connected to a gray, it's connected to a sort of nice cornflower blue, and it's connected to this orange up here. I want to color it so that when I pick yellow over here, yellow is connected to red, yellow is connected to that beautiful cornflower blue, yellow is connected to the gray, and yellow is connected to the orange above. You must color it in exactly the same way. You must color it in exactly the same way. Now I'm going to make a big, gigantic conjecture. I'm going to ask first and foremost, can you color it this way with my new rules? The answer in this particular instance is yes. I could. Why? Because it's PowerPoint. It's really easy for me to go ahead and stretch it and turn it around and actually use the same thing. But in fact, what we're doing is we're asking a question. Is it the exact same graph? This weird coloring rule is enforcing that hey, it's just a flip on this side, and it's a twist and a stretch, but it's exactly the same structure. Now you might say, why do I care about this? Well, in fact, Theo cares about these kinds of things. In kind of chemical, biological instances, you're looking, do I have the exact same structure? So you might say, Ben, can you actually do this with a computer? The answer is no. As the number of nodes, as the graph gets bigger and bigger, we can't do it. Now, here's the scary part. We can't prove that we can't do it. What tells us that we can't do it? We've tried really hard. But you might say, wait a second, okay, first off, computers can't do everything? Nope. Let's actually go worse. Let's look at this. I have the little blue thing on the side, and I want to look inside of this graph and see, is it actually embedded inside of this? Is it embedded inside of this? Is this small little graph stuck inside of this? Now you might actually, if you think about this carefully, and I ask you to do the relationship between these two problems. Let me flip them back and forth here. It turns out that this second one is actually a generalization of the problem before. This asks the question, is this the same as this? Now this one is this graph the same as some sub-piece of this graph inside of this here? So let's notice something. If you could write an algorithm to solve this, you could certainly solve this, because I'm looking at sameness. Computational complexity proves that this is harder. Your intuition is that, wait, I could solve it this way just because it's a subgraph of this particular piece, a subgeneralization of the same thing. Computational complexity mathematically proves that if I can solve this problem, I can solve this problem. Now you might say, why do you care about this? This image actually was taken from work that I did with one of my students in computational biology. This particular path, these are particular genetic pathways. The edges here relate to genes relating to each other. If you have these particular things, this is a redundant pathway. There's a really cool idea here, life's backup system. Does life have a backup system? And yes, biologically, there are probably many situations where we have backups when something fails. And we're looking to discover those particular backups with new biological information. I have one final fourth problem. Let's take a look at this. Here, notice these 6 blue nodes. So I've got this graph. Can anyone notice a pattern with the particular 6? They're all connected to each other. So everybody in all 6 of these are connected to each other. They're like a cute little group of friends. In fact, actually, that's the name of the problem. It's called clique. I'm looking for somebody that's a clique, like in high school. Now, when I'm given a general graph, and I want to ask the question, what's the largest group of friends? What's the largest clique in the entire graph? It is also too difficult to do. In fact, if you could do it, you could solve this, you could solve this, and you could certainly solve this. But it's much worse than that. If you found any way to approximate this in any reasonable amount, if I give you a general structure and I say, what is the largest group of friends? There's an easy application here. Mark Zuckerberg would like very, very much to do this. He takes all of his friends and he wants the largest group of friends. He can't even write, given the biggest supercomputer, any way to solve in any approximation what's the largest number of friends. You can't even approximate this problem. If you could approximate it to any factor, you could solve this one, you could solve this one, you could solve this one, you could solve this one. Computational complexity is a relationship between problems to order them hardest, from easiest to hardest. And that's exactly what I've done here. Thank you.